Amitabha. After an unusually long day at work, Yana was ready to go home. Since it was still raining rather hard, she offered a colleague a ride so he wouldn't have to take the bus and then get soaked walking the rest of the way to his house. Even though she knew the route, night had fallen, and with the steady rain, she drove with heightened caution. As she neared an intersection, the light was green, and so she proceeded at her current speed. But as she entered the intersection, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a car on the cross street rapidly approaching the intersection. It was coming straight at her. In a split-second decision, Yana accelerated, hoping that the other driver would not hit her car where her passenger was sitting. It worked, but the back of her car was not spared. After exiting the intersection and pulling over to the side of the road, she turned to her passenger and asked if he was okay. He reassured her that he was shaken, but otherwise all right. Yana grabbed her umbrella, got out of the car, and hurried over to the other vehicle. The driver, an older man, looked dazed, but when Yana asked if he was okay, he replied that he was unharmed. The rain did not let up. Taking his name and contact information, and noting that he lived in the area, she told herself she could get the insurance details another day. After learning his son was coming for him, she then returned to her car and waited until she saw the son's car pull up and stop. Then, slowly driving her now battered car, she dropped her passenger off at his house and managed to drive the rest of the way home. The next day, her sister took her to the man's house to get his insurance information. Yana was still angry. She wanted to know why he had failed to stop at a red light. He was accompanied by his son, who had helped him after the accident. The young man explained to Yana and her sister that his mother was seriously ill. As had become routine, his father had been with his mother all day in the hospital and was on his way home to get some sleep before returning the next day. He said that his father felt terrible about the accident. He had been thinking about his wife and was so exhausted from his daily visits that he didn't pay attention to the changing lights. As the son spoke, the older man kept shaking his head and apologizing softly. Yana thought about the night before. After the man had run into her and she had pulled over to the side of the road, her adrenaline-fueled realization of what might have happened had turned from horror to anger. Who was this idiot? And why had he run the light? Probably another driver who was paying more attention to his phone than where he was going. Why didn't he drive more carefully when it was raining and the wet roads were so slippery? But after listening to the son's explanation, she realized that it was not at all what she had imagined. In one of those rare moments of crystal clarity, she saw that all of her assumptions about the driver were wrong. The poor man was exhausted, not reckless. He was worried about his sick wife who was suffering. He wasn't driving around selfishly enjoying himself. Having completely misjudged the situation, Yana told herself that she had once again impatiently jumped to the wrong conclusion. And with thoughts running rampant, she had become angry. And worse, she was about to take her outrage out on this sweet man who kept murmuring, sorry. Yes, he did hit the back of her car, but that didn't justify yelling at him. Alarmed at how she had worked herself into such a state, she felt her irritation and impatience drain away. In their place was forgiveness for this exhausted man who had understandably made a mistake that led to an accident. Chagrined, she realized that she had to change. Allowing herself to reach a conclusion before she understood the situation and losing her temper wasn't good for her or those close to her, like her sister. But how and where to start? It's a good question for all of us to consider. We need to develop patience. But how do we do it? And how does it even work? After hearing so many times how we should be more patient, such advice may begin to sound like an instruction to put up with a situation or tolerate an annoying person. But patience is so much more than gritting our teeth and keeping quiet. It's more than merely tolerating something or someone, because tolerance does not include respect and appreciation for other people. There can still be an element of disapproval in being tolerant. So although tolerance is better than disapproval, it is not as beneficial as patience. Let's take the example of someone yelling at us. With patience, we can remain calm and not yell back, thus avoiding a shouting match. Very impressive. But how do we accomplish this? We can remind ourselves that while being yelled at is demeaning and can be stressful, it's not life-threatening. So we're not in any real physical danger. The only thing is that being hurt, and the only thing being hurt is our feelings. Feelings tend to be habitual patterns of how we react to different situations. They're not real either because they're constantly changing. We can choose not to accept the person's anger. We can view it like an item they're offering us, but a useless one for which we have no need. An emotional retort to the anger spewing at us would mean that we have acknowledged and accepted their gift of anger. We don't want any of it, but our rejection of this unwanted gift and how to decline it needs to be done calmly and thoughtfully, and done patiently without ill will. Once we begin to calm down, we can remind ourselves that the person's anger toward us is not because of something we have just done or something they think we have. So there's no point in being combative, in belligerently trying to justify our behavior and defend ourselves. The behavior in question was only a trigger. It's not the real cause, not the underlying problem. His anger is a karmic continuation of an ongoing disagreement that spans our lifetimes. The other person is simply responding to our having said hurtful things to him in the now distant past. So there's no need to cast blame because neither one of us remembers the original cause of the conflict all those lifetimes ago. And frankly, with the latest occurrence, both of us have contributed to allowing things to boil up again. The thing to focus on now is resolving the mutual bitterness. For this, we need forgiveness and patience. But if instead, in an attempt not to add fuel to the proverbial fire, we grit our teeth and clench our fists as we struggle to keep our arms at our side and say nothing, we will neither reduce our animosity nor manage to forgive the other person. The other person may feel like they've won this round, but with our repressed anger, we've set ourselves up to be the next belligerent party in the next round. The fire has not been put out. Forgiveness will be a non-event. The way to reduce animosity is to accept our role in an ongoing feud. At some point, we did something wrong. If we hadn't, we wouldn't be here being berated. Things do not happen without a cause. When we are wrong, it is best to accept that fact and react calmly. It is crucial to remember and remind ourselves that we do not want to be caught up in an endless loop where each of us continues to hurt the other. In all likelihood, the other person does not understand the future consequences of continued hostility. We do. So we are the one who needs to end the hostility. Such an understanding would have helped Yana realize that the actual cause of the accident was not someone driving recklessly, not even someone unable to concentrate due to exhaustion and worry. The real cause lay in a previous life, in the distant past. And her actions in that lifetime played a major role in her accident in this lifetime. Fortunately, she stopped herself before expressing her anger at the man, which would have only worsened the karmic situation. What else is patience? It is understanding that because we have a physical form and a brain that dictates habitual feelings, we will often experience discomfort or displeasure. We're too hot or too cold. The sun is too bright or the day dreary. The server at the restaurant is slow. It's late, and our kids are still on their smartphones. Our coworker is again late for the meeting. The list can seem endless, as can our complaints. Patience means that we're okay with being uncomfortable because the temperature isn't what we like, and okay with a late meal a cloudy day, and waiting again for someone. We remind ourselves that these are no big deal. Such inconveniences and annoyances won't last forever or even very long. Besides, when we are impatient, we upset others as well. But by being patient, we give the gift of thoughtfulness. Being patient does not mean that we do not try to make the situation better. Since we do not know if what we try will work, we hope for a good result, but do not have expectations. We patiently accept the outcome, knowing we did what we could. Just wasn't meant to be. In essence, patience is the acceptance that arises from equanimity and understanding. There is no fussing or resentment about circumstances or people. Patience helps us understand that while there are things we cannot change, what we can change is how we think about them. Again, it's the two arrows of pain and suffering that were mentioned earlier. When we are hit with the first arrow of pain, whether physical or mental, we refrain from shooting ourselves with arrows of suffering. And we do so calmly and with understanding and patience. Amitabha.